Hey, everybody, welcome to Jam TV show number 187. Hey, everybody.
The gang's all here.
Well, how's
How's
it
it
going?
going?
Hello. Hi,
Yeah,
Frank.
The gang's all here except Bill Nolan. Bill Nolan,
Yeah.
I talked to him 3 weeks ago. I was like, hey, Bill Nolan, how's Wednesdays for you? We're switching Jam TV to Wednesdays. He's like, great, it's awesome, but he hasn't made one Wednesday, so
Ain't that
I've
the
got
way?
gigs every Wednesday now.
there you go. So I checked with him first. How you guys doing? Will Baird, what's the latest up in Boston?
It's all about, nothing special other than murder.
Murder. Murdering who in Boston?
Now, there's a murder conspiracy, it's on trial, and it's like obsessing the entire city. With this sordid story of this woman and her boyfriend cop and her maybe running over him in a snowstorm in front of a house with a whole bunch of other law enforcement people who. It's a long story, but basically, she claims that she claims a lot of things. It's fascinating. You
Who
can
did
look up
it?
Karen
Who
Reed.
done it? Who done it? Who done it?
Yeah, who done it? I can't say on the air. I mean, it'd be like public, blasphemy. She could
they
sue
don't-
us all.
They don't know, huh? They don't. Who allegedly done it? Yeah.
Yes, she was. She did run around the scene repeatedly yelling to first responders, "I hit him! I hit him! I hit him!" But that doesn't mean that she hit him necessarily.
I don't know. What do you mean? Wait, there's hit and there's hit.
There's
So,
hitting that and there's hitting that. I mean, after all.
And there's
Yeah.
hitting that. Yeah. Oh my God. Frank Antorna, how you been?
I am not unwell, thank you very much for asking.
Playing like crazy as usual.
Playing like crazy. I actually
Oh my
was
God,
able to
yes.
get a new toy.
Ooh, a Res Electric. What is it?
Ooh.
It's a Dean Res Electric, so it almost sounds like a resonator. It's a pretty neat little piece. I've been trying to get one of these for a little while, so
Oh,
I'm
that's
very,
cool.
Very happy about it.
So is that a fancy schmancy one? Like,
Oh God,
like
no! God, no! No, I do. I
Is
wish.
it like-
No, this is solid, bottom of the middle of the road kind of a piece. I mean, it's a great entry level point for somebody that wants to play something that sounds like a resonator guitar, but doesn't sound like a tin
good one.
can inside a sandwich, and also doesn't require you to leverage any bodily organs or children. So, you know.
that's great. Can't wait to hear that thing. Dave Robinson, what's the latest?
The latest is tomorrow. Stitches.
What now? Where? What? Who?
The stitches will be coming out of my neck
All right.
Ow.
Yay.
tomorrow.
I didn't know you had
Yeah.
Will be-
stitches in your
which
neck.
which will be a good thing.
Yeah.
You're switching
yeah.
it back to Velcro.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I am like choking on something. The pollen. I'm in the mountains of Pennsylvania, and the pollen. Like, I don't have allergies, but like the last couple of days, it's been like on the car. Like the car's yellow. The blue car
Oh,
is
yeah.
now yellow, and I don't know. Like I hit Jam TV, and then all of a sudden, like I'm having some sort of histamine reaction. Like what the hell?
Great, the spore outbreak. You're going to be patient zero now. And we're going to see
Oh my
it live on the
God!
internet.
Like, and I don't have allergy. I had one allergy thing in my life, right? So, it's my first ever gig, right? I'm 19, and the band that I was playing with actually no, it's worse than that. I run into some friends of mine who are music friends. And they're like, can you play a gig at Main Street in Denver in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks? I was like, Main Street? Main Street was like the big club in Denver, like the big deal club. And like the Roseland of Denver. Like it was way beyond our pay grade, and I'd never done a professional gig. So I was like, all right, I can do that, right? So anyway, skip ahead. We get this gig through crazy circumstances. The B-level national act canceled, and somebody convinced them we were just as good, and we didn't even have a band, and it was like we hobbled this thing together, like totally hobbled it together. And the morning of the morning of the show, this show we never should have had. Like, it should never have had, like, a giant club, right? That morning, my roommate, my housemate up in the mountains, said we had a little cabin in the mountains, made me buckwheat pancakes. And I learned very shortly thereafter that I was deathly allergic to buckwheat.
Wow.
Like, really bad. And I never had allergies like a minute in my life. Nothing. And I was sick, and I was vomiting. And when my girlfriend drove me down to the Wardenburg Student Health Center to the emergency room, and they admit me to the hospital, and I call the lead singer of the band, and it was a little, and I call her up, and I said, listen, I'm not going to be able to make the show tonight. And she said, if you don't come to the show, I'm going to find you and kill you. And she said it in such a way where I was like, she's going to come and find me and actually kill me. Yeah.
That was a sworn statement right there, boy.
That's right. So I said to the doctor, I went to the
Yeah.
doctor and I said, you've got to release me. I have to go to the gig, right? And show must go on, right? And he said, no, we got to keep you for observation. You're very weak, and we're gonna this and that, and blah, the balance of such and such. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. Like, this is a matter of life and death. And he's like, I'm not releasing you, and you can't leave. And I'm like, okay. So I was on the second story window, and there was a tree outside the window, and I opened the window and climbed down the tree and ran away from the hospital to make the gig. True story.
My God.
And then I
God.
never went back to the Wardenburg Student Health Center because I was scared I was going to get arrested or something
Yeah,
like
they
that.
would be like, he's the one. Yes, look at his
So
record.
that's my only allergy story, like, except for right now where I'm like
Pretty friggin'
dying.
good one.
Wow, the
Well,
escapees.
that was a top 5. Well done. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
then I
that's-
went to I tried to figure out what it was, and I went to a what do they call it?
Allergist?
An allergist. Yeah, right. I went to an allergist, and they do this thing. They've got this like block that has little needles on it, and the needles are dipped in all the things you could be allergic to, and then they put it on your arm, and they go like that, and they scratch you a little bit, and then every one that turns red you're allergic to, and they did it, and the only one they put the buckwheat paste on the one, right, and it was like bright red, like looked like a bee sting. So yeah, buckwheat, and then since then I don't think I'm still allergic to it. But.
I remember I had that done on my back where they did, like 20 of these things, but
Right.
it wasn't all in one thing. It was like, I'm going to put in one, okay, I'm going to put in another one. And like number 3, within like 5 seconds, I was like, okay, it's itching and it burned. What was number 3?
Right.
What the hell is that? She's saying,
Exactly.
I can't tell you. That only the doctor
Chicken,
could tell you.
chicken pox, yeah.
Yeah, it could have been. It was amazing. It could have been anything.
Right.
Squirrel.
It could have. But you'll have to get shots for that for the next 5 years. So, but we can't tell you what it is.
Buckwheat pancakes. That's what I was allergic to. Who eats buckwheat? Has anybody had a buckwheat pancake in the last 40 years? Like, who makes? Is that a thing still?
All I can think of is
It's-
little
it's a
rascals
thing.
when I hear buckwheat.
Well, Bob's Red Mill. sells
Sorry,
buckwheat
and I don't mean to be
flour.
offensive or anything.
So you eat buckwheat pancakes, Frank?
I wouldn't say I've eaten them, but I just, there was a while where I was like toying around with things, trying to do like lower gluten and sugar kind of things, and just mucked about with like buckwheat and barley flour and things like that.
Oh, so buckwheat has lower gluten. There you go. I didn't
Yeah,
even know
well,
that.
it's a different protein. It's like barley. It's the
Right,
same.
right, right.
It's got the same basic protein as wheat, and it's got the similar kind of a thing, similar glutinous
Right.
constitution, but it's a slightly different animal. And some people that have a sensitivity to it, they can skate with that.
Exactly. Me, I'll never forget it.
Yeah, you not so much. I would
I'll
stay.
never
no,
forget it.
No, let's not say we didn't.
That sounds horrible. Well, at least you didn't your face didn't swell up and stop breathing. And
No,
that
I
kind of-
didn't go into
Or you
anaphylactic
didn't.
shock.
Yeah, or you didn't actually die, which is
Yeah.
what the doctor was
Yeah,
concerned
yeah.
about.
I
And why
didn't
he didn't want you to leave, yet you
I
still
was
crawled
so-
out an effing window.
I got to the gig and I was completely pale. I had no color in my face.
Yeah.
And this was the 80s. This is like the early. No, this was like 83 or 83, right? And so it was 84. And the lead singer like female vocal. She pulled her makeup kit out and she put eye makeup on me and she put rouge on me. And I swear to God, and they spiked my hair out, like made it all like 1980s. And everybody must have thought I was a heroin addict or something. Oh no, it's worse than that. Like, so I really looked sick. I really looked bad. But I couldn't really stand. Like, I was really weak.
Yeah.
And so they got a bar stool. They set up my keyboards for me and everything, right? They got it all going. I had a Rhodes electric piano and a synthesizer and something else. And they took 2 belts and they put them together and they belted me down to this bar stool so that I wouldn't fall out. So I was like holding myself up. I was like,
Combination of like the Victor Borga bit where he puts on the seatbelt on the piano bench.
right, oh my God.
Like you look like a cross between Sid Vicious and Baby Jane.
Exactly.
It
was really bad. And you know what? And the gig went great. And we went from being nobody. I mean, never had a gig, never had a rehearsal before we found out about the gig. We went from that to being one of the top bands around the area for the next
Tell
4
me there are pictures.
There are pictures. There are. I got to ask my friends in Colorado for some pictures, yeah.
Well, clearly you need to decide between your career and your life.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Either eat the
My
pancakes
God.
and stay at the hospital, and maybe die, or go to
Right.
or the other way around. If you
Holy
go to the show, you
moly.
might die. If you stay in the hospital, you will die, not because of the hospital, but because of the.
It's true. So, Frankie and Jordan, tell me about that guitar and play something for us.
Okay, so this is it's a Dean resonator with a lipstick tube pickup
Wow.
baked into it.
Nice.
It's
Probably loud.
it's fairly loud, and briefly just the story behind resonator guitars for
Right.
those that don't know.
Yeah.
In the 1930s, bands were starting to use acoustic instruments more and more, but obviously there were no such things as amplifiers then.
Right.
So they figured, well, how can we make the guitar louder? So somebody thought the idea of, well, let's take a hubcap and turn it upside down.
Right.
And basically put a chunk of wood with the saddle on it. And so this is the original, what they call a biscuit cone resonator. So
Right.
it's basically like it's an aluminum speaker aimed down, so that's where it gets a little bit more of a bark to it. And originally, a lot of the Delta guys use it for.
Frank, are you able to turn your volume up at all?
I could try and bring it up a little bit more here.
Yeah, bring it up a little bit. That
Just-
sounds
it
great.
sounds-
Yeah, those
it
Res
sounds-
Electrics are super. And a little known fact about that time, actually before that, a lot of people think that the guitar was what the blues was all about. It was all about the guitar, and in fact, the blues was played mostly for 50 years before the guitar became popular on the accordion.
I knew you were going there.
And the reason for that is that accordions were loud. They were really loud instruments, and guitars, they just couldn't get them loud enough, And then, of course, electric happened, and Res Electric happened, and all that, and it transitioned right over, away from nobody ever heard of accordion again.
Yeah, one of those things. Well, thank God for Weird Al Yankovic then, huh?
There it is.
That a little better?
Yeah, that sounds great. Play
Yeah,
something
we
for
can
us.
hear it, yeah.
Let's hear that thing.
All right, I'm going to do one. I think I've played this one in the past here, but this is one by the Allman Brothers. This is the way Greg actually wrote it. It's a song called Come and Go Blues. People say you're no good. I wouldn't cut you loose, baby, if I could. Seem to stay down on the ground. Baby, I'm too far gone to turn around. If only you make up your mind, take me where you go and leave me laying behind. Woman, you got those come and go blue. Woman, you got those come and go blue. Lord, you got me feeling like a fool. Like a fool. Round and round, round it goes. Ask me why I stay here, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a fool to care. Without your sweet love, baby, I would be nowhere. Here I stay, locked in your web, till the day I might find somebody else. And I don't know, no, just when I will be. And I don't know, no, can't say 'cause I can't see. Sail on, darling, sail on. You just go your way and I'll go mine. Seems to me I once heard everything is finally goodbye time. Darling, sail on, darling, sail on. I just wish you luck. See you when you come next time. Lord, you got those come and go blue. Woman, you got those come and go blue. Lord, you got me feeling like a fool. Like a fool.
All right.
Like a fool.
Really cool.
Yeah, it's a fun
Very
one.
cool.
How was the verb and stuff? Because for whatever reason, I can't hear the playback with effects through here the way I've got this rig set up.
Yeah, right. No, it sounds good. The one thing that I slightly worried that if you go down to the bottom of your StreamYard screen or into your settings and you turn off the noise reduction or the noise cancellation, I have a feeling that that's because what that does is it decides what the signal is, like, oh, it's the guitar, and then it takes your voice and it's like, or it decides it's your voice and then takes the. So when you go back, when you play one or the other more, it's fine. But when you do both together, it gets a little funny. But you sound good. It's really cool. Like, what a cool instrument that is. So you don't play that with the finger picks, right?
No, I haven't gotten around to getting that just yet. I'm still trying to figure that out because when you use the finger picks, first off, they pinch and they hurt. Second off, it changes the overall architecture, the geometry of where you're playing from.
Right.
Because you're an extra, 3/8 of an inch out, and you've got to go in a certain direction. Whereas with fingertips, you can kind of get it squared away and dangle it. You know what I mean?
I played with a guy who used a National Res Electric, and we had a blues band. He had a blues band called the Walter Lewis Blues Band, and Walter is an odd guy, but Walter, he had a National Res Electric and the finger picks and everything. And if you listen to the record from the guy sitting on the stump in the Delta with the wax recorder, right? If you listen to that record, he hits every nuance and every note exactly.
Yeah,
he didn't
that's-
interpret those. He basically brought those back,
Yeah,
and
that's-
it was amazing to play with that guy because before that, my knowledge of the blues was like I've heard Led Zeppelin, that's the blues,
right.
the rock. You listen to Hendrix, that's the blues. It's like okay, not really,
Yeah, no. Not
and
so much.
and he would say things to me like I would play because I'm like an old like progressive rock fusion jazz player. You know what I mean? Like so it's like I do basic music theory, but with some weird voicings and whatever. And he used to say to me, they hadn't invented that stuff yet. You can't play that chord because they didn't do that chord in those days.
Not authentic.
That chord did not exist at that point.
Right.
Exactly.
And I had that too. So I used to back up a woman who was a famous gospel singer, Georgia Lewis, and I would do some shows with her playing the Hammond organ. And after the show, she would say, that chord. She was very musical and amazing. She would say, you can't play that chord because that's got she used to say something like that's got the devil's note in it or the evil note or something. Yeah. And I was like, you can't play that in church music. And I'm like, really? And then I've since learned about it. There are chords that and intervals that you don't touch because it's a little too. What was that?
Yeah. Yeah, rub a little too much voodoo on it.
Got to get a little dopamine going, and we don't want that in church,
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, there was, and speaking along those lines of somebody who was a real traditionalist player. I mean, I was lucky enough to play with this guy Tom Hanway, who's I believe he's in Ireland now.
Right.
But same kind of thing. I mean, he studied under people who studied under like Mississippi John Hurt. I mean,
Right.
there was like a direct relationship.
Right.
And he was able to replicate a lot of that finger style kind of stuff, and to watch somebody do that. As a 20-year-old kid sitting in a bar in Portchester, it's a completely mind-blowing. Oh, that's how that's supposed to work. Because I'm sitting here strummy with my campfire chords, thinking I'm all that in a bag of chips, and this guy's doing things like just unbelievable. Robert Jr. Lockwood and Robert Johnson, just all the crazy little finger style stuff that I still can't do, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah, same
But
here.
that's the thing. Authenticity in doing some of the older music is very important, and I didn't know that as a young man. I was like, I didn't say it, but I said stuff like, who do you think you are telling me I know how to play my. Who's got the phone ringing?
That's me.
I'm gonna
McGillicuddy over there.
I'm gonna go let him get it. So
It's the bat phone.
it's the bad.
Yep,
So
that's right.
I was like, who do you think you are telling me I know how to play? I'm going to interpret it my way, meaning I don't know how to do it right. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I'm not
exactly.
interested in learning. Yeah.
Well, I took a course in college that was the history of the blues, and it was by this professor who specialized in ethnicology, I think,
Right.
but basically world music, and that was another class that he taught was world music.
Right.
And you just listened to stuff all day, but you had to actually say something intelligent about it. And boy, there's a lot of weird music out in the world, does not sound like music to us at all. Tibetan monk chanting that doesn't sound like voices, stuff like that.
What do you mean? Half the electronic stuff I do on this desk, like
But this is like Thai women, making those sounds.
I would. I play some of my electronic music for people, and they're like, "We watched that live stream you did at 3 a.m, and don't quit your day job," So there you have
I keep
it.
waking up to those live streams because I'll be watching one of my videos and then I'll fall asleep at the end of it, or maybe the show actually, and I'll fall asleep at the end of it, and I'll wake up like in the middle of the night with the iPad still in front of me, and it'll be one of your bizarro toys.
There it
making
is.
I'll be like, what the hell is this?
There it
Then
is.
it'll say head train, and I'll be like, oh, that's it again.
Broaden my mind with music, So I, when you go back and you're doing historical music, when you're doing, even, that's like a slightly cringe comment, but even when I do the Blues Brothers, which is like a cover band of the cover bands, the
Right,
Blues
yeah.
Brothers never wrote anything. They covered all the music from stacked records from the 50s, 60s.
Right.
And but there's a way that you do that. There's a way that you play that stuff, and you don't interpret it. You don't rock it out. You play it the way it was played. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Good
and the subtleties of it are actually something that only somebody who knows the blues and studied the blues actually can even recognize them.
Do you guys know Bobby Hardin? Do you know who that is? Bobby Hardin's a friend of mine, like musical friend, and a great singer, like a terrific singer. And I think they call the original Blues Brothers is what they call the Blues Brothers band. What's left of it, Lou Marini and Tom Bones Malone and those guys, right? But of course, Aykroyd and Belushi aren't with them anymore, so they have singers, and they have Tommy Pipes McDonald, who does like the Jake character, and then they got a few singers they work with. Bobby Hart is one of those guys. He tours around the world with those guys, and they're still at it, right?
Yeah.
And
Nice.
A friend of mine just posted a video. She was in New York City, and it was Bobby Hart and a couple of, I couldn't see who the other guys were, but they were heavy players. And they set up on the street in New York, and they were doing, rhythm and blues music from that era. Like, not Blues Brothers per se, but they were doing that kind of music, whatever. And there were about 5 or 6 people standing around watching them. Like, you could see off to the left, there were a few people watching, but most of the crowd walked by them like they weren't there. And, these guys are freaking good. They're, really, really, world-class good. And the New Yorkers were, on their phones and, walking briskly, not even looking at them. They were, right here,
Well, that's New York being New York to a certain
Right,
degree.
exactly.
That could have also just as easily been a bludgeoning with a baseball bat with nails sticking out of it. They also wouldn't turn,
God.
They wouldn't look over there either. Oh, you got blood on my shoes.
Right, exactly. It was and I've seen videos like a violinist in the subway in some European city, and everybody just walking by him. And that night he played at Robert Alpert, some amazing hall with
there's always stuff like that that's going on.
And he's playing his
thing now.
$500,000 Stradivarius in the subway. Nobody's giving him 25 cents.
Yeah. Well, there was a scene like that. I think what was the movie? It was a Paul McCartney vanity vehicle in the 1980s. It was Say Goodbye to Broad Street or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
There's a scene where Paul McCartney's character is busking on the streets of New York, and it's actually him busking on the streets of New York. They just set it up as a live shot, and he's being ignored. And that's Paul McCartney.
You gotta love that.
Granted, it's not like he was playing yesterday, but it's like anybody who knows who the hell Paul McCartney was, when you walk by Paul McCartney, you're gonna.
Right. It's so funny to me. It's so funny to me that people. They're so in their little world. They're at their blinders on, and they're in their thing. They're doing their thing that they can't break out of it, especially in New York. New Yorkers are very much like that.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, if you go into Harvard Square, people are, even when they're in a hurry, they're still kind of taking in what's going on around them, and it's very strange. People will walk right past you when you're busking, and they'll just throw money in your case and keep going, and you'd be like, you're not even hearing a whole song, and you just gave me $5.
Yeah, on the other side of the coin too, it's that allows certain people that are kind of famous to have a certain layer of anonymity to them,
which is great. I think that's great.
John Lennon loved living in the city because he could just walk around and people go, "Hey, John, what
you
doing?"
No one knew. Yeah.
And one guy eventually figured it out, but that's another story.
One guy figured it out. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But there's still stuff like that where there's people that have a modicum of fame and notoriety, but they're able to live like a semblance of a normal human being in that town without being mobbed by, for want of a better word, schnooks or fanboys.
Yeah, right. That's good stuff. All right, do another song for us. I want to hear that thing some more.
Okay. All right. So this one, I just changed the tuning and let's see here. Is that a good level there? Now I'm playing with a pick, so it's probably a little louder.
Louder.
Yeah. More.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I got that.
That's getting there.
This is a song by a band called the Wood Brothers, and
All right.
I just recently rediscovered this song. Actually, was lucky enough to see them play live a couple of years ago, and this is a great tongue-in-cheek kind of song about how people don't always, they don't always get the most out of when they're in a good place. It's like, there's got to be like sparks flying out for like, real growth and good things to happen. So there's a fun little tune called Happiness Jones, and it goes something like this. All of my wisdom came from my toughest days. Never learned a thing being happy. And all of my suffering came, never appreciated. Never learned a thing being happy. But to know how it feels now and then. Got a Happiness Jones, my friend. Happiness Jones. All of my answers came, driving myself insane. I had a dragon to tame to get happy. And all of my peace and quiet came from putting out fires. I kept a spark alive to get happy. That dragon come back mad. I got a Happiness Jones so bad. Happiness Jones. Happiness Jones. Happiness Jones. Happiness Jones. I'm not sick. I'm not alone. I got it. Happiness Jones. All of those songs I wrote while the storm was rocking my boat, yeah, they stuck in my throat when I was happy. And all those songs I was singing while my boat was sinking, the next thing I'm thinking I'm happy, I might as well change my name to Happiness Jones, my friend. Happiness Jones. Happiness Jones. Happiness Jones. I'm not sick. I'm not alone. I got it. Happiness Jones. Happy.
All right.
I just love the lyrics in that song. It just kills me.
That's great.
Nice.
Really good.
Yeah, so those guys are a lot of fun. So it's a trio brother act called the Wood Brothers. Was lucky enough to see them a couple of years ago open up for Tedeschi Trucks, and they put on a great show. I'm pretty sure they played that song. They do a ripping cover of Ophelia from the band and some other bits and pieces. They're really good. They're a really cool group.
So they're a new act. They're out now. They're around.
I wouldn't say they're a new act. They've probably been out for a solid 10 years.
Right.
Doing like support acts and things, but they're they're gaining a little bit of traction in my opinion. And either way, they're a fun band to listen to. So definitely check them out if you get a chance.
Yeah, they got to be doing okay if they're on the bill with Tedeschi Trucks, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know that they know what for, and that and that's just such a great bill to catch all the time. Playing with those guys because they always bring people out, and it's just such a fun party to see those guys play live.
So that's an original tune of theirs, or that's a cover of something older?
I believe that's one of their songs. So.
That's a cool tune. It's very groovy, and
Yeah, it's a fun track. It's a fun one to play. So, and ironically, there's a cover version where he's actually using a resonator guitar, although he's got a really cool one called a tricone, which is those are really neat. Instead of having one big hubcap, it's got 3 smaller hubcaps. On like this weird little T-bridge thing.
They were definitely drinking when they were coming up with that.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, I got a new concept for a guitar. Instead of 1, this one's gonna have 3.
It goes to 11. Yeah.
Right.
Something like that. Well, it's a neat concept because basically what it's doing is it's setting it up like the wheels on a tricycle, right? But so you got 2 over here,
Right.
for the low end, and then 1 for the treble. So I mean, they were basically trying to find a way to give it a more low mid kind of bark.
Right.
Instead of the high mid bark that the aluminum, like the big.
Right, like they're very twangy, especially when you're playing with the picks. Their finger picks are very like very like banjo-y almost.
Yeah, so it's kind of a cross in between the 2 primary types of resonator guitars. You know, I mean, there's
Right.
ones like this, like the Biscuit, and then they got another one called the Spider Bridge, which is actually what a lot of the dobros that you would hear like on bluegrass, like pedals, like
Right.
Like Jerry Douglas. Most of the instruments that he play, I believe, are like a Spider Bridge. So it's got a completely different tonal range.
Right.
So it's a rabbit hole of rabbit holes, to be honest.
Right.
It's like, so right up there with bass talk. Where's Randy to go on about basses?
There you go.
Yeah,
Exactly.
bass strings. Yeah.
I was down in bluegrass country, and I'm not a bluegrass guy. Like I like bluegrass, I listen to it, but I'm a keyboard player, so there's not much call for keyboards, and that's a string instrument thing. So I'm at a place called the Country Store in Floyd, Virginia, which is in like the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it's a place where they do bluegrass. It's a famous place, and I actually went to a show about maybe a month ago to a show, and so they start at 7 or 6:30, and they do an hour. I didn't know this. They have an opening act, which is gospel music, bluegrass.
Oh yeah, that's
And these guys were like ministers at a certain church, and they came out and they did like I Love Jesus gospel bluegrass music.
Oh yeah.
It was amazing, right? But the audience sat there with their hands folded and they nodded, and I was like, oh, I thought this was going to be like a rock and roll show here,
Yeah.
And it was not. It was like church, right? So they go the hour, and then they bring the dance band on, which doesn't look too different, but everybody gets up and dances, and there's hundreds of people that are clog dancing or whatever they do.
Those were the songs about the wife and sister.
There it is, right?
Yeah.
And so they were doing that. So actually, it was the next day, I went back in there, Floyd Country Store. They had breakfast there. And I talked to the owner. And he was hanging out. I was talking to him. And he's a name. And he doesn't play, but he's like a promoter in that business. And I said, so, I play accordion. Is there like a role for that in the music? Like, could you incorporate accordion like they do in Louisiana with Zydeco and Cajun music, whatever. And he goes, no.
No.
And I was like, like he was like, no, that is not part of bluegrass. That would be like walking up to like Leonard Bernstein and be like, can I set up my Marshall stacks and like play like?
Yeah, completely different deal. Yeah, the closest you could come to something like that is you would have to end up playing like an ancient forebear of the piano, which would be like a hammered dulcimer.
Okay.
Right. Right.
So hammered dulcimers are actually like the forerunner of a piano.
Yeah,
when
right.
they first started smacking on strings with things on a flat
Right.
plane.
They are so precise at how they do bluegrass music. Like it has a level of musicianship and that's like way higher than a lot of stuff that I play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's there's very interesting parallels in like the scales you would use in bluegrass and some of the scales that you would use in heavy metal, and I mean it's a really interesting kind of when you break it down. There's a number of similarities to it, but yeah, they tend to not play around with that. They don't want you effing with what they do there.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting? Like if you don't know a music, like if you're not a classical music aficionado, or you don't like if you really truly can't tell the difference between Mozart and and
Bach.
Beethoven, right? Or Bach, right? If you really can't hear the difference, like it's one of those, but you don't know which one, then literally every song sounds exactly the same. It's just the same song, right?
Yep.
And if you don't know the blues, or if you don't know bluegrass, it sounds like they're playing the same song all over again. You know, like here we go.
Absolutely.
For me, that would be
One of the
Boz
jokes.
Scaggs. Going to a Boz Scaggs concert.
And every song sounds the same. But then you really listen, like or Elvis Costello. Like every song sounds like the same. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's
just
true.
another Elvis Costello vehicle.
Hurling himself against the wall. Yeah,
But
yeah,
but
that is
it's
true.
but it's not. Like there's
there's
so
something
much
different.
depth. That's you,
Yeah.
as a listener.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
well,
it's just your own
there's
shallowness.
jokes about that actually.
I'll
Like,
bet.
how do you tell a fiddle song? How do you tell fiddle songs apart? Their names.
Right.
Literally, that's the gag.
Right.
And now we're going to play Logs in the Bedpan, and he would go into
Right.
something. I mean, literally. So
No, sorry. I am writing that song after we get done. But it's true. Like if you don't know a genre, then it's all like even like death metal. Perfect example, death metal.
Oh, sure.
It's right. They all sound like that.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. All it takes is a wee bit of ignorance, and it just becomes that thing.
One thing. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, or if Yale Greenman was part of your guys' circle at all. Does that name ring a bell?
Oh yeah, I know who that is.
Yeah. So the bass player, he owned a bar down in Stamford, Connecticut for eons. Great guy, and just and he would always just say, "Oh, it's that reggae song. Oh, it's
Right.
Oh, it's that Grateful Dead song." Or it's that
Right.
Jack Johnson song.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
just and he just constantly, and he would just such a.
I do that sometimes. I go that blues song. So what's funny is that Yale and I play in a band together now. Sort of. He's the sub. The sub. He's
When
the
you go into
sub.
puberty, that's when you go backwards.
He's
he
the
takes
sub
over.
for. He's the sub for a bass player in a band I play with in Greenwich, and I remember when I first saw him on that. Lately I've been doing a bunch of gigs with him, and I was like, "Aren't you the guy from Greens?" And he's like, "Yep, that's me."
Does he still have that Longhorn?
He's a great guy. Yeah, he's a great fella. But
He
he's the
had
harbor
a,
master of Stamford, Connecticut, right now.
Yep. Yeah. he used to have a Dan Electro Longhorn short scale bass.
Yes, he did play that. Yes, he
Okay,
did
yeah.
play that.
That amplifier, that bass, and then the amplifier that he had with it. I'd say a very fast story about
Yeah.
Yale, right? So I don't know. For those of you that never been into Greens, it was basically
Right.
every dive you ever in college, with the exception of like the peanut shells on the floor. And it was like you would walk in the door, and to the left was the bar, and it was just like a medium-size-ish room, not very big. You could maybe fit 40 people in the thing total.
Right.
And to the right was like a pseudo riser with the drums and the stage setup, and there was a picture window behind it, right? So normally when you would walk in during the day, you would walk into sunlight because the picture windows are right there. Well, I
Right.
walk in this one particular afternoon, and all of a sudden I'm in darkness, and I turn around. He had literally like a 7-foot bass. It was like this monstrous bass cabinet with an even taller amplifier on top of it. It literally blotted out the sun.
Like an Ampeg, right? Ampeg used to have
Just
some.
one of those things, like one of those custom things that you would could double as a couch, but bigger.
Right.
It was taller than that. I don't
Right.
know what the hell it was. Might have been like an SVT or something like that. But either way,
Right.
it was a monster. And because it was up on a riser, it was even taller. And I walk in the door, and I'm like in shade all of a sudden. Jesus, Yale, what the hell did you get that thing in this place? You want to hear it? And he goes, he grabs it, and he turns the thing up, and he's just blasted along and having a ball, and he's grinning at me, just the typical Yale grin, this
Right.
maniacal thing. And I hear this weird buzz, and I can't figure out what it is. And he's looking at me like, huh? And I look. The buzz that I was hearing was the drumsticks that were on top of the snare. He was playing so loud, they were literally. He was doing He was doing a drum roll and playing bass at the same time.
That is funny.
It just fucking awesome. Oh, God,
That
he's,
is funny.
Oh yeah, he was.
I'll be seeing him over the next few weeks. The
Please give
main.
Yale my
I'll-
regards.
I'll say hi. Yeah, the main bass player in that band that I play with is he can't make some of the shows. He travels for work. So, and when he can't do it, it's you, it's Yale. Yeah. So
Substitute the side man. Ed Train can play anything.
the subs. Yeah. So
he was funny. Oh man.
I'll definitely be doing some shows with him. So let's hear one more on that Resurrection. I really like the way that thing sounds. I like it with the pick. I really do.
All right. So now that you said that, I'm going to finger pick something.
There you go.
This is a. Who played? I think Bill played this one night. Living on the road, my friend, wanna keep you free and clean. Now you'll wear your skin like iron and your breath as hard as kerosene. Weren't your mama's only boy, but her favorite one it seemed. Began to cry when you said goodbye. Sank into your dreams. Pancho was a bandit boy. His horse was fast as polished steel. He wore his gun outside his pants for all the honest world to feel. Pancho met his match, on the deserts down in Mexico. Nobody heard his dying word. That's the way it goes. All the federales say could have had him any day, but only let him go so long. Out of kindness, I suppose. Lefty, he can't sing the blues all night long like he used to. Dust that Pancho bit down south ended up in Lefty's mouth. Day they laid poor Pancho low, Lefty split for Ohio, where he got the bread to go. Ain't nobody know. All the federales say could have had him any day, only let him go so long. Out of kindness, I suppose. Poets tell how Pancho fell, left his living in a cheap hotel. Desert's quiet, Cleveland's cold, so the story ends, we're told. Pancho needs your prayers, it's true. Save a few for Lefty too. Only did what he had to do. Now he's growing old. All the federales say we could have had him any day. We only let him hang around. Of kindness, I suppose. A few great federales say could have had him any day. Only let him go so long. Out of kindness, I suppose.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
That was really pretty.
Love it.
Yeah,
Very nice.
Really pretty.
Yep.
I was playing along
Excellent.
to it. It's really good. Really good.
I used to play accordion on that with Dave Hirsch. Used to come to my jam. He'd drive like an hour and a half from New Jersey to come up to Cobb's Mill and all the places I ran jams, and we would do that. It's such a great song.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic tune. And I love the stories about him too. He was just such a interesting fellow.
Who, Dave Hirsch?
Well, yeah, him too.
Frank, what's the name of the song?
That is Poncho and Lefty.
Oh, Macho and Lefty. Okay, classic. Sorry,
Yeah.
I've heard the name before and never heard the song.
I couldn't have told you the name either. I just started playing with a band out here. If they're not in Pennsylvania, they're right across the Delaware River in New York State, kind of where Bethel Woods, where Woodstock was held, right? Everybody thinks Woodstock was held
Yeah, in Woodstock.
near Woodstock. And they're like, no, it was in Saugerties, it was like an hour and a half to the west of Woodstock.
Right.
It was just called Woodstock.
Right.
And anyway, so I joined this band that plays like 5 minutes from Bethel Woods where Woodstock was held. And why did I tell that story?
Where was I going
Was it something
with
to do with
that?
Towns Van Zandt?
But yeah, anyway.
Playing accordion.
Yeah, I don't remember now, but this band they're called Doctor Shadow, right? So I get a phone
Dr.
call.
Shadow.
I found them online and they're like, we're looking for a keyboard player. I'm like, okay. So I sent them my number or whatever, and then a few days later I get a phone call and a woman said, "Hi, this is Deb from Dr. Shadow." And I'm like, "Do you have the right number?" And she goes, "Is this Ed Train?" I'm like,
I'm
"Yes."
scheduling your appointment.
Right, and I'm like, I don't think I have a doctor named Dr. Shadow. Like, what is your like? And she's like,
Dr.
no,
Shadow
the
doctor?
band doctor. I'm like, oh, I didn't know the name of the band.
Ain't that the way?
And someday I'll know why I brought that up. But
We'll circle back to it in a half.
but
an hour.
I like that Res Electric. I like what you do with it. You're definitely on the right track. What possessed you to go that direction? Like what?
Well, I always enjoyed the sound of those instruments across the genre, because I listen to a lot of bluegrass, I listen to
Right.
a lot of country music, slide guitar, those kind of pieces, and just the sound of it always appealed to me. But it was just the problem was that either you would buy something that was a cheap piece of garbage that sounded like shit and played worse,
Right.
or you would have to mortgage your child to get something that's got like
Right.
a comment. I mean, like the decent ones, start at like 900 and up, and I don't have that kind of wherewithal.
Right.
Yeah.
So thankfully with this particular model, there was a nice middle of the road one, and I actually went through almost bought about four different versions of that guitar,
Right.
through various and sundry things, through like Facebook Marketplace and stuff like that. But each one, it's like, hey, is it gone? It was like literally I would see the ad, I would ping the guy, and he's like, yeah, it's sold.
Right.
So because the ones in that price range just, boom, they show up and then
Right.
they disappear.
Right.
So, and it's definitely an interesting, it's not a full-on kind of sound. You really need to have it mic'd as
Yeah.
well as the
Yeah.
pickup to
Right,
really
right.
get
Yeah,
the
to
bark
get that- the resonance.
Brings you a whole nother level of complexity when you're trying to play live to have
Oh,
to
exactly.
balance all that.
100%. Yeah. For,
I think-
for the most part, just running it through, it works fine. I'm sorry, you're saying, Bill?
Oh well, just Frank. One of the things that always impresses me about you as a performing artist is that you seem to always be looking for ways to kind of shake it up. Whether it's having a machine that'll do background vocals for you, whether it's changing in and out of instruments like this stuff so that you're not just always playing guitar and always playing the same style. You seem over the last 3 years I've watched you keep bringing in. So there's something new every time that I'm imagining you're using in your act to kind of shake it up, and that always impresses me.
Well, thank
Takes
you.
some
Thank you very
creativity.
much. Yeah, I try and make a point of doing that, just because when it's just you for 3 hours,
Right.
you gotta be able to break that stuff up, because otherwise, if it's just you strummy, singy, you're not gonna get a lot of you're gonna run out of shit to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, so that's why I bring the resonator. I bring a 12 string occasionally that I'll use for certain things, because it's got that nice kind of jangly full sound, and you can get a bunch of different things with that. And then obviously, using the loop pedal and the harmony pedal and things like that. And the great thing about the looper and the harmony pedal is it lets you stretch out and play things that you don't normally get to do.
Right.
As a solo acoustic performer, you can pull things off that widens the palette, and that creates a little bit wider an appeal for you as a performer, and it lets you stay in venues where maybe you only play there once or twice. Yeah, we know what he's going to do. Done.
That's right. Yeah,
Right.
we've heard these songs. Yeah.
So, Will Baird, how come for Frank it's a tasteful, artistic choice of equipment? For me, it's just gear acquisition syndrome and an addiction.
Gear acquisition syndrome for me
It's
too.
a problem for me. Yeah, it's some sort
It's
of
never
mental
shaking
disorder.
And it takes me 45 minutes to pack this shit up at the end of the night, too. So there's
That's
and
the
to
other
set it
thing.
up, too,
So you,
it's like-
you find like so, especially as a keyboard player, you find like you go through these waves in your keyboard player career where you're like, no, I'm gonna bring a Hammond organ chopped down and a Leslie speaker to the gig, even though I need to buy a bigger vehicle to get it there. But I want that authentic sound. And then you do that for about a year, and you're like, your back goes out. And you're like, I want a little tiny keyboard that sounds like an organ. And then you start now I need another one and another one. And then you're like, I'm going back to the Hammond. And, you know.
Well, I always get a kick out of it when you play at the open mic nights and stuff. Because I mean, literally, he pulls a keyboard out that like fits in his jacket
Right.
pocket. He literally pulls this thing out. It's like this big, and he just USBs in and then that's that. And he gets about 5 different keyboard tones out of it.
Right, exactly. So I've had everything from like a little lap thing that you put on your lap and play. I was playing once at my own jam, I think. No, I was at a gig with a band, and I had I don't know if you've ever I think you've seen this one. It's made of wood. It looks like a bread box or something, and it's got all kinds of ornate. It's an Italian reed organ that I gutted, and I put a computer inside. And I mean like 15 years ago I did this, and it sounded like the biggest, baddest ass B3, but it looked like this weird little wooden, beautiful antique thing, right? And I was playing it one day, and Nile Rodgers' keyboard player comes up to me, and I didn't know it was him, right? And he comes up and he goes, what's that? And so I think he's just some dork, like some guy. Like he's not going to know, right? And so I'm like, oh, it's magic, like it's a magic box. And he's like, no, like what's inside that thing? And then I sort of look at his eye and I'm like, oh, this guy knows something.
Yeah.
He's wise, I think. Like he knows. So I told him what it was, and he's like, oh, very interesting, because you couldn't tell it was like state-of-the-art software instruments with MIDI, wireless MIDI, and whatever. Actually, the sound came out of you ever seen those pilot bags that like pilots have that open at the top so that they get their maps out in the cockpit, right? So the computer was in the pilot bag. And so what I would do is I would walk into a venue or a jam or whatever, and I would put the pilot bag next to the PA. And I would pull out, I had 2 XLRs that I'd pull out and plug that into the board, and then plug that in the wall. And then the antique thing was wireless to that.
Right, so long as you were within 30 feet. And
Right.
No,
It's
there was
exactly.
no Wi-Fi
And so when you look at the antique, you're like, I don't even know what I'm looking at there. That was just the wireless, because you needed a lot of gear to make this happen. Now you can do it on an iPhone, but not in those days. But it is really cool to like. It's inspiring somehow, like to get a new piece of gear like that guitar you have there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna play for hours now.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, and it helps keep things fresh for me as a player. It keeps me trying new stuff, and just you avoid getting into a rut, and you're able to pull other songs out of the hat that you wouldn't normally be able to do.
So what's the learning curve? Like do you have to add new songs for it, or you're doing stuff that you're used to doing on it?
Some things I'm adding in. Some things I'm just, applying, stuff that I've already done, So oddly enough, Little Martha sounds really good on that thing. Figure the odds.
Right.
Which is, an Allman Brothers tune I do. The other Allman Brothers song that I just played. Working on trying to get a little bit of like, Delta stuff. I got to train this to do the right thing.
Right.
To do the actual finger style blues stuff, a la that conversation we were having earlier, being able to authentically play that stuff properly.
Right.
So it's a little bit of both. Just pulling new things out of the hat and also, applying it to other things because it's a different tonal palette.
I don't play it accurately. I just fuck it up my own special way.
Right.
Well, that's usually what I end up doing as well. I always joke that I try and sound like Dickie Betts and sound more like Keith Richards. That's my guitar sound.
But those Delta Blues guys, those guys that did it back in the day, they didn't know what they were doing.
No,
they
of course
didn't.
not.
Right,
They
they
didn't
were-
go
they
to
were
some
just
music school.
Finding their way to it. Yeah.
And so if you try to recreate what they're doing, they were doing what came natural to their hand and their brain.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not necessarily what you learn when you play other music.
Oh, of
and so
course.
you've got to
Oh,
get in
100%,
that mindset.
Yeah, it's not a rigorous prescribed technique. It's just figuring out the way where they held stuff to try and get that note to sound that way when you hit it angrily enough, or sadly enough. So it's not like you're sitting there like doing the Segovia thing where you've got to have your wrist at 17 3/4 of a degree or whatever. It's just figuring out where that piece works. But there's little nuances to each guy's playing where you listen to it, that's Howlin' Wolf, or that's Robert Johnson just by listening to the way that guy plays. It could be the
You play
tunings
with
they
your own
use.
personal style, and you have your own personal style that you bring to things, and that you've built up, like little tricks that you do and little riffs that you do that it just feels natural. And I do that, whatever. But when you're trying to learn somebody else's little natural tricks, they don't come naturally to you.
Oh no, absolutely, and it's all about finding that compromise between being able to sound close enough to what they do, without being a flat out mimic, which also for whatever reason people look down their nose at that, because that's also an interesting kind of juxtaposition between the two. It's like there used to be a guy that I knew that would come around. And he was like a dead knockoff for Stevie Ray Vaughan to the point where he would dress like the guy.
Right.
And and he would do it really good. And he was quite good at it. He could do plenty of shit that I couldn't do. But at the same time, I'm like, why do you need to pretend to be Stevie Ray Vaughan? Like you're in a bar in Fairfield County. I mean, that's okay,
Can't
fine.
you just
If
be
you're getting
yourself?
paid for that, you can wear the hat, but you don't need to wear the hat and the vest
Right.
and do the
But you're talking about him on the air right now, so whatever it
so-
is, it works. Marketing.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the first time I thought of that guy in like 30 years, to be honest with you. But okay.
So my father, I was visiting my father, and he lived in South Africa. My father retired in South Africa, so I fly 500 hours to get to South. It's like the longest flight in the world. And I get to South Africa. My father goes, I bought tickets a month ago for Ray Charles playing at an amphitheater here in the wine country. I'm like, yes, right? And he says, no, I didn't finish. And I go, what? And he goes, well, like Ray Charles is Ray Charles, and he's amazing, and he's awesome. But I swapped the tickets out because they brought in this other guy the next day, and so we're going to go see him. It'll be more fun. And I go, what is it? And he goes, it's a Liberace impersonator. And I was like, wait, what now?
What?
So and then it was like, no. And Ray Charles was sold out now. And I'm like, come on, really? And he goes, no, it'll be really fun. He's the best Liberace impersonator in South Africa. And I'm like,
that can be a ringing endorsement of sorts.
I have seen the best the best Liberace in
So
South
I
Africa.
saw
That's
that.
It's a special
How
thing
was
to
it?
be able to claim it.
it was Liberace.
Don't take it for granted. That's a gift. That's a gift from your father.
But was it the best Liberace in South Africa?
It was definitely the best Liberace impersonator in South Africa.
There you go. So that's a feather in the cap.
Yeah, people like, but that's the thing, to that guy's credit, that if you're going to copy someone, there are a lot of people that just are like, I like Stevie Ray. Oh my God, you look like him. They don't know.
Yeah, well, and especially for artists that have shuffled off their mortal coil, or for acts like say U2. There's of course a viable market for that, for acts to go and do those tribute things. Where you can't throw a rock without hitting a Led Zeppelin tribute band these
Right.
days. A great buddy of mine plays in a fantastic Tom Petty tribute act. And they're getting plenty of great work for it.
Right.
And for one thing, it's supporting legacy acts for artists that are no longer around.
Right.
And in the case of groups like U2, they'll go to places where U2 will not go. So there's like U2 tribute acts that play stadiums in Brazil.
Right.
Because
Right.
U2 will not go to Brazil.
Right.
And so you get guys that are obviously at a fairly high level of competence,
Right.
and they throw their all into copping that sound, and they're playing stadiums. And
If
it's
I'm not
great. Well,
mistaken, Billy Joel has a Billy Joel cover band that's like part of his network. Like he
yeah.
sends them out to do shows.
Like, I can't make it, so I'll send them.
yeah, why not? And he gets a taste of it, like any good gangster. That's
That's
how it would work. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I don't want to play over in
I want to get a
Syosset.
piece of it.
So you're going to go over there. You're going to get $1,500, but you're going to bring $500 to me. And you can
There
split
it
the
is.
rest,
That's it.
So yeah, but that's a viable. There's plenty of musicians that make a living doing that, and more power to them.
That's right,
That
and
is
that's becoming more of what live music is. There are a lot of people that won't go to a bar or like the Black Duck or the Stonebridge or whatever. They won't go to it, but they'll go to FTC or they'll go to the Capitol Theater, and those places are like, how am I going to sell tickets for the Ed Train Blues Band that people don't know them.
Yeah.
But if you say, oh, it's Stevie Ray Vaughan and he's got the outfit on, then it's like people are like, oh, I'll buy that ticket. I want to go
Stevie
see
Ray
it.
Vaughan.
That's a solid thing, and it's a win for the venue, and it's a win for that particular artist. It's a lose for schnooks such as you and I that don't have that. But what are you going to do? Because again, it's a known quantity.
Yeah, exactly.
Know
It's
what
safe
Stevie Ray
for
Vaughan
everybody.
sounds like, or what Tom
I got
Petty
fired from a Zeppelin cover band. I played with one that's around, and I did about 5 or 6 gigs with them right after the pandemic, and I didn't want to join the band. I really didn't. Like I was like, this isn't really me. But they're like, it's you got to get there 5 hours before the hit time. And you got to do the sound check, and they play bigger venues and like the Bijou Theater in Bridgeport, and like those kind of bigger gigs. A lot of travel time and whatever. But you made like instead of making your $100 a band or your $150, you made $400. And so I was like, I could do a bunch of gigs with them, and it's the same amount of time commitment. I could do it. So I learned the book and whatever. And the complaint they had was. It was real, was that I kind of did it my way, right? Like, I'm a do-it-your-way guy. Like, I'm not a do-it-like the record.
Yeah,
and so I would play the solo slightly different than the record, or I would just do a solo. And they're like, no, you have to do it exactly like you're in a Broadway play. You have to play it.
Yeah. You have to say your lines. Don't
You're
make them up.
in Jersey Boys. You're going to play it like we tell you to play it,
Yeah.
And I'm not that guy. And so they're like, yeah, you're not that guy. You're bringing your own personality into it, and we don't want that.
We don't want personality.
Absolutely.
I was like, oh, yeah, well, I quit. You can't fire me,
Yeah, no, and that's the downside for that kind of a thing, and that's one reason that I probably would never be in a tribute band unless the tribute band was an Allman Brothers tribute band,
Right.
Because they never played shows the same goddamn way twice anyway,
Right.
And I don't know if I'm just not good enough or too lazy. But it's probably a combination of those two where I'm not going to learn something exactly like the record. I can't.
Right. You're right.
Yeah.
Like I don't care to. I know you don't care to. Like, it's like, yeah, I want to do it. I want to throw my own personality into it a little bit. I mean, you're a front man, right? I'm a side man. So it's even worse. Like I'm a side man. At least let me do my own thing. At least let me, love me because I bring some personality musically. But if you're looking for it's got to be this way, Then I feel weird. Like I've said it on the show many times. I love Steely Dan, but I hate playing Steely Dan because Steely Dan, you have to do it exactly right. It's like almost you got to play it note for note, and you voice the chords the way they are.
You have to understand how that works, at the very least, to get the gestalt of it, a very high degree of the gestalt. You
got to have all the little
pot shot.
additions in the chord, and you got to play the right voicing and the right rhythm, because otherwise, what are you doing? You're wrecking Steely Dan.
It's all gonna,
Yeah, and yet another band that I couldn't really play very well, and I don't know if it's not so much that I choose not to, that I'm not capable of it.
No, but you could learn it. You could sit down. Like Bill Nolan, amazing to me. Like, he's got this encycliopedic knowledge.
He's insane. Yeah, I don't know how he does it.
He gets down and he plays like, all these crazy chords, like, you're like, whatever. But he sat down with the whatever, and he learned it, and he looked at the chart, and he wrote it, and he like, oh, it's this way and this way and this way. He watched the video. It's like this. It's like this. It's, And so, that's not what kind of player I am. I'm like, listen to the song on the way to the gig, and it'll be fine.
I think I've got the chords. Yeah.
Get a basic idea of it, and then I'll just
It's
record
an A,
it.
right? Yeah. Exactly.
I played at a place called Minton's Playhouse, which is in Harlem, and it's the home of bebop music. Like, it was like the home, the place where bebop came from back in the day. And I played there with a jazz group, and they were in a pinch. Something happened. I think he got food poisoning or something. It was a last-minute gig, and they're like, "We need you." And I'm like, "I'm not a jazz guy." Like, he'll be like, "You have an ear. You'll be fine." Right? So I get down to the gig, and we had a sound check and then a little bit of a rehearsal before the gig. And there was a guitar player on the gig who was like, I don't know, like Juilliard jazz guy or a Berkeley jazz guy, right?
Yeah.
And so we would play the song, and then we'd go, "What is the voicing of the chord that you're playing there? Like, that's not what I expected. It's an odd." And I was like, he's like, and I'm like, and he's like, "Yeah, what you're supposed to play is an E flat minor 7 add 9 add 13 depressed blah blah blah," right? I'm like, whatever. So I go, "Can you play the chord for me?" And he looks at me like I'm an idiot, right? Like, I just told you what the chord is, and he goes, "Ring," and I go, "Like this?" Ring on the keyboard, and he's like, I did it by ear, and he got mad. But I was probably playing it. I was sufficiently wrong that he was annoyed,
Yeah.
So I made it through the gig. I made it work. I played a lot of the 1 and the 5 and a little something.
Yeah. Occasionally leave the flat 3 out of there every now and again.
Exactly.
Just to watch the vein on the back of his neck just kind of.
There it is. Yeah, he hated me.
Bit,
But the band leader, he wasn't the band leader. The band leader was the sax player. What was his name? Cal. He was a great guy. What the hell was his name? He moved to Japan or Singapore? Singapore, I think, and became a big jazz thing in Singapore.
Yeah, American music, overseas is huge.
Yeah,
and especially in the Southeast Asia. I mean, and all of Asia. You go over there. You can make a lot of money.
He became a real thing. But
Yeah.
and he used to come to my jams. That's how I knew him, from the jam circuit. He would come once in a while, and then I did my one serious jazz gig, and everybody was going for it. The whole place was like, "Oh, it's amazing, right?" And after the show, everybody's like, "You're amazing," and the keyboard player, the guitar player, was like, "Yeah, good to have you on the show, motherfucker."
Oh, yeah, that's one of the reasons. Also, my daughter plays bass or chooses to play bass instead of guitar because she's like, I don't need to learn exactly what it is. I can play what I want.
There it is.
And she that's where she's at right now. And that's
I think that's cool when a chick plays the bass. I think
agree.
that's amazing.
I always am like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, no, she just continually impresses the hell out of me. She just picks up instruments left, right, and center. She's
That's
talking about
cool.
just like getting it. She's talking about just grabbing an alto saxophone from the school just to figure it out. Just borrowing one for the summer. Joining the local town band as a saxophone player just because she can.
Right.
There's like a local, the town band where people come through and play instruments, and some of them are high school kids. And some
They
of them
learn music differently than we did. Like we
God, yeah.
sat home we had our records, and that was it. Or you maybe
we
get a
listened to them.
theory book or something, or take a few lessons. But we sort of had to work our way into it by listening to
course.
the radio. They don't do that now. They want to learn how to play the alto sax. You watch 15 videos on YouTube, and you can kind of play it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's true.
She actually
Yeah.
was just showing me an app. We were heading out to dinner, before the show here.
Right.
And I think it's called Noose or Moose or something like that. It's basically an AI app, and what you can do is you take a song from YouTube or Spotify or whatever, and suck
Right.
that into the app, right? And for the freemium version of it, it lets you then isolate individual bits.
Right.
Like so, she took "Fool in the Rain" from Led Zeppelin.
Yep.
Downloaded it into this thing, and then just cut everybody out except Bonham's drum part.
That's great.
You know,
Wow.
and it basically isolates out the entire thing, and so you could just use that app.
Yeah,
and
right.
learn exactly what the frig he did. They literally have an app for that now.
Right. Right.
Whereas we would be sitting there with the record going, back,
Right.
fuck, missed, back, too
Right.
far, or back and forth with the tape, the tape player.
Right.
It used to be
Or
there
you would
software.
you would go through all that, and then you would get to your band rehearsal of your crappy band that nobody knew what they were doing, and the singer would be like, "I need it in a different key." Like, play it in this, and you're like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I just barely figured it out this time. God damn it.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of the advantages of being a solo act.
Yeah, yeah, and that's another one actually that my daughter ended up dealing with, where she was like learning a particular song that I happen to know, so I showed her the parts and stuff to it, and she got there, and it turned out it was going to be in a different key, but she was just like, okay,
And she just transposes it.
yeah, just transposed it out. Well, I mean, it was, it wasn't, it wasn't like a Steely Dan song. It was like Brown Eyed Girl or something like that. I mean, it's like, so she dropped it a step. She couldn't do the exact things because, you relied on open strings for it, blah, blah, blah. But still, I mean, yeah, they fling stuff at her and she's like, okay, let me listen to it twice.
That's
okay,
cool.
I got it. Yeah.
That's cool to
she's
have
an
that
assassin.
grasp.
She is an assassin. It's just, I'm intensely proud and mildly annoyed all at the
I'll
same time.
bet. I know.
That's what parenting a teenager is like.
Well, also, so the thing is, like, music is my thing, right? Now she can correct me.
Ah,
she can do
She's
it better.
Not wrong.
the
She's
nerve.
not wrong.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
you just played that fucked up, and I'm like, you're right, but I've been playing it that way for 30 years, so it's not going to change.
Well, I've told this story on the air about Steely Dan. That I was playing in a band that did a lot of Steely Dan. It was with a full horn section and everything. And the drummer, Bob Bonvini, great guy. The drummer leaned over to me during the rehearsal, and he said it real quiet because he didn't want to embarrass me in front of the other guys. Because horn players know exactly what notes they're playing. They have sheet music and it's written out, and they rehearse them, whatever. And he said, on that chord, that third chord and the second whatever, and I'm like, yeah. And he goes, measure number 72. Are you playing the dominant 7 or on the top or the bottom? And I froze, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm like,
What is dominant
what?
7?
And then I'm like, no, wait, I can figure this out, right? So I played the chord, and I'm like, well, there's the 1, and there's the 5, and there's the minor third, and oh yeah, that's what the dominant's the other note. I said I'm playing that on the top on my pinky, and he goes, it's supposed to be on the bottom, and I go like this. And I played the chord, the one below, so I could hit it on the bottom. And I go, oh shit, he's right. And I'm like, fucking drummer, the drummer, like knew which note it was, and I didn't know it.
God damn it! How'd that happen?
I figured you would say like, well, no, where does the submissive
Right,
note?
exactly. The submissive 7. I'll kill you.
I was using the submissive note.
Yeah, I didn't realize one of my fingers was wearing leather.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. And the worst part is the minute I played the chord, I was like, I couldn't get that. I knew there was something wrong, but I didn't know what it was.
You couldn't get it back.
Bastard! How dare he?
Yep. No, absolutely. And that once again just circles back to the whole thing. Because we are backyard, for want of a better word, hacks.
Right.
We're basically 3 steps above the guys who didn't have anything, where they didn't know that they needed to have the 17 to 3/4 degree angle.
Right.
We're just kind of figuring the shit out by ear, the same way they figured shit out by braille.
That's
And
it.
now these kids have all of this stuff through YouTube and AI apps
Right.
and all other bits and pieces, and better music education through the school system and this and
Right.
that. And they're able to do stuff light years beyond we were at that age, and
Yep.
in some cases light years where we are now.
Right. It's true. Oh my God. And then there's Will Baird. So Will Baird, play a song for us, would you?
Okay. One of the biggest challenges of being on this show is that you spend like all day learning a new song so you can like be fresh, and then you're all ready to do it, and then you got to wait for like an hour and not touch your instrument. So now you're like, I got to play it now, and I haven't rehearsed it. I don't remember it. I'm not sure.
What was that middle thing? Where was that dominant 7 now? Fuck.
That's right. Yeah, I need like any 7th. I'll just take any 7th. But I gotta play this song. I just gotta play this song. So
It'll be fine. I have faith in you, Will.
it's maybe God bless you. I'm glad somebody does. Please tell my banker that.
Well, I'm not going to lend you money. I'm going to listen. Nice. I gotta
Very
ask, what
nice.
tuning are you in there for that? It sounds like you're in
It's
a lower tuning
I
there.
don't know. I swear to God.
Where's the dominant 7?
I've
God
spent
damn
like
it!
all day. I was like, I think this is in the Pentecostal scale that Bill was talking about. I don't know. I don't know. I honestly, I don't. It's somewhere it's in D, and other places it's in C, and sometimes it's in A, and so it's. I think it's like the Pentecostal scale.
Fair enough.
Blues
Yeah.
thing.
That's great.
The
Yeah, the way
rudimentary
that you work in recording the tracks, it's like you could do all of that brain work in the studio and then just focus on your performance and your expression and the lead line.
Yeah, it's great, and not only that, but I can also find ways to beat Leonard. Leonard, is that Leonard with the theremin.
Oh, the theremin.
Check this out.
Oh my God. Lorenz, not Leonard. Lorenz.
Lorenz,
Right.
my God,
Right.
poor Lorenz. What a jerk I am. Sorry, Lorenz, wherever you are.
It's he'll
Sorry.
survive.
We want to have you on the show.
He'll be okay. It'll be all right. And by the way, I gotta say, man, I love the tone that you're able to get out of that, the processing stuff that you've got on that guitar. I mean, it really sounds like $1,000,000.
Oh, thanks.
sure
That's
does.
great. I constantly miss my old guitar because it was like this big booming dreadnought, like And you're the second person who has said something like that, where I've gone, oh well, okay, maybe I'll keep this. Yeah, I guess maybe it was worth it.
Yeah, and you got it dialed in, for Jam TV. Now, I remember in the early days of Jam TV, it was like, how does it sound?
We'll bring Will back in a few minutes.
Well, that's how I sound most weeks, after all. So.
We had a lot of that. Yeah,
it's
a
a
lot of
miracle it works at all. I've said that a
Yeah.
million times,
It truly is. Yeah.
But do another one, Wilbert, would you?
Sure. Let's see. What'll I do here? Okay. This is a tune by Jonathan Edwards, who was kind of a folk rock guy. He did
All
like
right.
lay around the shanty and get a good buzz on, and
Yep, that's
he
a
had
fun
a
one,
bunch
too.
of sort of FM hits. This is called Sometimes.
Cool. Nice.
Awesome.
refreshing to hear a Jonathan Edwards
Wow.
song. It's not Sunshine.
Yeah, that's right. I know that's right. He must have made some good money off of that though, which is nice.
You would think, yeah. Between that one and Shanty, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like one of my standard jokes, actually, because I happen to play both of those songs. So it's, so whichever one I do, I basically update. So that was 50% of Jonathan Edwards' hit catalog.
Right.
And,
There is a video out on if you go on YouTube and hunt for him, you'll find a video of him somewhere playing in a bar where he's doing this long run on some story behind some song, and finally some guy in the background yells, "Shut up and play!" And he, like, somebody kept it up there. The video's like out there forever.
Oh, yeah,
But, but it's absolute, like, every folk player's nightmare is somebody shut up and play.
yep. I don't know.
That's
We've all
funny.
been there.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of obscure stuff. Like, so I'll listen to obscure stuff, like playlists on Spotify when I'm driving, whatever. And I'll get to a song and be like, "Ooh, what's that song?" Right? And then I'll like go to the album or go to the artist, and I'll look, like, "Oh, I don't know who that is." I listen to a lot of weird, like, electronic music and sound effect kind of sounding music. So, and I was listening, and I look, and on Spotify they'll tell you, like, "Oh, this song has 1,000 listens," or like, 2,000 listens, or less than 1,000 listens.
Yeah, that would
you
be
know what I
all
mean?
of mine. Yeah.
That's right. So I go and I'm like, "Oh, this poor guy, less than 1,000. Oh, I'm listening to the record, right? Less than 1,000, less than 1,000. And I'm like, God, he's really pretty good. Like, somebody from the 80s. Like, I have no idea who it is, whatever. And then a song will come on, and it's an instrumental electronic music song, and I'll be like, wait a minute. I remember that song, and I look at it, it's like 72 million listens. Like, that song has 72 million, but everything else they did has like
Has listened.
Yeah.
2,400,
Yeah.
right?
Can you imagine one of those concerts, like, painfully sitting through an hour and 15 minutes of songs nobody wants, and just for the song,
For the song, right? Like, and it's like, it wasn't even some amazing song. It was just like, it was on a movie or something, or it was like, so everybody heard that one. My friend
was not.
I had a friend, Chip Damiani, who's passed away many years now, and Chip Damiani was the drummer of the band The Remains. Have you ever heard of The Remains?
Yeah, I've heard of The Remains.
Yeah, right. The Remains is one of those, like, I think I've heard of that. They toured on the bill with the Beatles in 1964. Like, they were the American group that played with me. And you would recognize, I'm not a music historian, obviously, but you would recognize a bunch of songs that they do. And I remember one day, and I was doing a thing in the studio with him, and he came in, and he was all happy, right? And I'm like, what? Right? And this is now 50 years after he did The Remains. He would show pictures. He had his bowl haircut, and he's sitting on a drum riser that's like 8 feet off the ground on some TV show or whatever, playing with The Remains. And he said, yeah, I got my royalty check for this such and such song. And I go, he's like, I haven't gotten a royalty on that song for years, but somebody put it in a movie that I don't remember the movie, but some movie you'd know. And the character gets into a taxi, and the cab driver is playing the Remains song, and then turns it off. It's like you get like 5 seconds of the song.
Yeah.
And he was the drummer. Like, he didn't even have like a writing credit or whatever it was, right? And the check was like $10,000 or something. Like, it was like real money. And I'm like, and he's like, I'm going to get a ton of these now. Like, every time somebody watches that movie. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. God, royalties.
Back when royalties were actually good.
Right. Yeah.
As opposed to nowadays with the streams you get from Spotify.
Well, streaming,
you send them money.
Yeah, exactly. Streaming is not how you're going to make your living.
Yeah. For paving the way to hell.
It's true. So, do you have one more, Will Bear?
Sure, I got one.
Do one more. We're going to wrap it soon.
Let's see. All right. Yeah, we'll go with a classic here.
All right.
Right.
Excellent.
That was the first song I ever played on Jam TV.
It is. Yeah,
know.
right.
That was the one.
So listening to that, I was just actually thinking like one that you would probably work out really well for you to try and do, Will, if you haven't done it, would be Ventura Highway.
You know, you're not the first to mention that. It's there's another person, another really good musician who said you got to do that song, and I checked it out. Actually, I've got it on my iTunes. I should check it out further. It's harder than I was expecting. There's more tricky
I
chords
didn't say
in
it was a cakewalk. Yeah, there's some very interesting dominant sevens and things like that.
Exactly. It's like, but I only know the submissive ones. Yeah.
I know. It's, well, just get
But
angry.
it's a really good idea. I should go back and look and check it out.
Well,
Thanks.
if you're unclear on any of the notes or the chords or the voicings, ask Dave Robinson, because drummers like have some sort of savant, like they
Charts
know
and
those
things
chords.
that
Yeah,
they,
Or my daughter, she'd be
all
happy
like-
to correct both of us.
right. All right, where are you playing, Frank Antardo? Let's plug your gigs.
So let's see. I got 3 gigs coming up this week. Tomorrow evening, I will be doing a solo gig down at the Castle Black Rock in
Right.
historic Black Rock.
Right.
Saturday, I'm doing a gig down at a community center in Banksville. It's kind of like a block party, but it's open to the public. So it's called Banksville Beats. I'll be down there Saturday from 6 to 9 with the one and only Mark Bridgman. And then
Wow.
and then Sunday, I will be doing a Father's Day brunch over at the Little Goose Cafe in Fairfield.
Nice. So wait, where's the one? You're talking about Branchville as part of Greenwich?
Banksville, yeah.
Banksville. That's what I meant.
Banksville, yeah, up on North Street, heading out towards what was the name of that club just over the state line there? I can't remember it now. But yeah, it's like off the North Street exit for off the Merritt and out that way.
What
So
time are you doing that show on Saturday?
That's like a 6 to 9, I think. At this, it's just a little community center thing.
Or is that Friday? Friday or Saturday?
That's Saturday night.
That's Saturday.
Yeah. So yeah, Thursday night is at the Castle. Saturday night's that thing, and then Sunday doing a brunch over at Little Goose Cafe down in Fairfield, which is another fun little
Fantastic.
place.
Have
You're
good
everywhere.
shows.
He's
Will
everywhere.
Baird, what do you have coming up? You playing out?
So I got the coolest. I'm doing farmers markets coming up. That season is all started. So
Oh, good.
And then I'm doing the coolest gig that I'm doing all year, and I get to do it twice. So if it screws up, I get to do another one. Is at Post Office Square, which is a park, a small park right in the middle of downtown Boston.
Is that the one right by the post office? Or
Yeah.
Think of the odds,
I've heard of that. Yeah.
But it's this gorgeous, like manicured, landscaped space that's a couple of acres, and it's like a couple of hundred people, and they come down there and listen. They have stuff they can sit on. What do you call them? Soft things that you can sit on. Cushions. And but it's just a guaranteed cool gig for my kind of music. This very
Right.
sort of chill.
Nice. Good deal.
So I'm looking forward to that one.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm playing at where am I playing? The Griff Golf Course in Greenwich.
The grip. The grip.
The Grip. I'm playing at the Grip on Friday night with Frank Rogers, assuming that the thunderstorms dance around the right way.
How did the
Yeah.
Rubber Monkey Band gig go?
It was great. It was phenomenal. The Hot Rubber Monkey Band played at the old McDuff's at Ollie's, and that band is super fun. Those guys, they just love it. They love playing, and it translates to some bands and some performers like, just another gig, time to make the donuts, right? No, this band is like bam, And
That's
so
always
it's
good when they're playing with a little fire. Yeah.
Time to
we
make
play
the
we play
donuts.
3 hours with no break, like we just plow through
Just
the music.
go. Yeah.
And then we can't walk after it's over. But that was super fun. And so, so I'm at the Griff on Friday. And then Saturday night, I'm DJing a birthday party for 2 9-year-old girls. So it's a lot of Taylor Swift
Yeah,
and a
that's
lot of
safe.
little girls screaming at like that sound I made when I was telling the story before, like 4 octaves above that squeaky sound.
Yeah, I know that sound. Yeah, so lots of.
That you're like,
Taylor Swift.
thank
Loud
God I'm
radio.
already deaf, because
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
beep, like laser,
Right up
like
there.
shouting and screaming Taylor Swift.
I guess
and
you
then,
get.
and then Sunday, from 1 to 2, I'm playing up in Stratford. If anybody wants to go to Stratford at a farmers market, I guess.
There you
With Parker, no, not Parker Avenue Band, Parker's Tangent. who I haven't played with in like 5 or 6 years, but they're a great band from up in that area, and they invited me to sit in for the last hour of their set, so that's what I'm doing.
Nice.
Sounds like fun.
Dave Robinson, what do you got coming up? You having your stitches out?
Yeah, stitches. Well, actually, I don't even know. I don't know why I'm calling them stitches. Staples.
Yeah, that's what I thought from last week.
Oh,
You guys
gross.
can see it, right?
Yeah.
Can you see
Gross.
Well, we can't. It's pretty
No,
dark.
we can't
Fortunately,
see
that's
it.
probably a good thing.
it? Maybe
You can kind of make them
it's-
out. Yeah,
It's pretty. Yeah, there's
it's
about
barbaric.
30-something.
Yeah, I don't know how they
Yes.
use those.
It's
you know?
disgusting. Oh my God.
Yes.
I got some
But I'm
needle nose
healing.
over here.
Yes.
And then you do like after that's done, are you going to do like physical therapy for your right hand side, or have you already started that?
I've already started.
I don't
It's
wanna
my
get
left
too
hand.
nosy, I'm
It's my
sorry.
left.
Your
My left
your left
hand.
side. Okay.
Left hand and arm, and hopefully, maybe I'll be able to drum again.
What do you
Yeah.
hit the What do you hit the snare drum with? Your right hand or your left hand?
Left.
My left.
Your left. All right, so you're gonna switch hands for a while.
Well, it's there's
You don't
more
know.
involved.
Yeah,
You know
of course,
what I'm
there's
saying?
more
Yeah.
involved.
There's
Yeah.
a whole lot involved. And
Do
right
what you got to
now,
do. Get through the nuisance of
not
it, and
happening.
you will do
need-
something at some point.
Yeah.
2 and 4
Yeah.
are overrated. It'll be fine. You do fine without those. That's all good.
All right, you guys. Great to see
All
you.
right.
I will see you guys very soon. It's show 188 next week, and I remember 88 was the magic
right,
number.
the magic
that
number.
We used to joke for the first year. We're like, we're going to go to the pandemic is going to go to 88 weeks, and we're
Yeah.
going to do JMTV for it. And everybody's like, no, we're not. 88 weeks. We'll all be dead by then.
You'll have to send us all 8 balls, to
Oh my God.
to symbolize, the
That's right.
88th,
188 we're at, and anyway, good to see you guys. I'll see you very soon. Have good
right.
gigs.
Happy
and-
Father's Day.
Well, you
All
guys
right.
take
And
care.
happy Father's Day.
Yes.
Take care, David. Be thinking of you.
All right.
Yeah. Be
See you
good,
guys.
man.